Part 2 of Osama bin Laden's story. Chapter 6. The Fallout of Abbottabad Section 1. The death of Osama bin Laden sent shockwaves across the globe. For the United States, it was a moment of triumph and closure after nearly a decade of pursuit. President Obama described it as a turning point in the war on terror, signaling the demise of the man who had orchestrated the deadliest terrorist attack in U.S. history. In Pakistan, the raid sparked outrage and embarrassment. The fact that U.S. forces had conducted a covert operation deep inside Pakistani territory without prior approval exposed the weaknesses of Pakistan's sovereignty and intelligence capabilities. Many questioned how Osama bin Laden had been able to live in a secure compound just a short distance from a major military academy. The Pakistani government faced intense scrutiny, both domestically and internationally. While some accused it of harboring Osama, others pointed to incompetence as the reason for his long-term presence in Abbottabad. The fallout strained U.S.-Pakistan relations, with both sides accusing each other of failures in cooperation and trust. In the Muslim world, reactions to Osama's death were mixed. While many condemned his actions and legacy, others viewed him as a martyr who had stood up against Western imperialism. Al-Qaeda issued statements, vowing revenge and reaffirming their commitment to global jihad. The loss of their leader, however, left a vacuum in their organization, leading to internal power struggles. Section 2. The raid on Osama's compound yielded a treasure trove of intelligence, which provided insights into Al-Qaeda's operations and future plans. Among the materials recovered were letters, videos, and digital files that revealed Osama's continued involvement in directing the organization. Despite living in isolation, he had maintained communication with his lieutenants, offering guidance on strategy and tactics. One of the most surprising revelations was Osama's frustration with Al-Qaeda's operations. He criticized the leadership for focusing on local conflicts rather than targeting the United States. He believed that large-scale attacks on Western powers were essential for sustaining the group's relevance and inspiring new recruits. The intelligence also showed that Osama was concerned about his personal security. He avoided using electronic communication, relying instead on couriers to send and receive messages. This cautious approach had helped him evade detection for years, but also limited his ability to effectively manage Al-Qaeda's network. The documents revealed a man who was both determined and isolated, grappling with the challenges of leading a global organization from a single, confined location. While his death was a blow to Al-Qaeda, it also marked the end of an era for the group, forcing them to adapt to a new reality without their iconic leader. Section 3. In the years following Osama bin Laden's death, Al-Qaeda struggled to maintain its dominance in the jihadist movement. The rise of the Islamic State ISIS in Iraq and Syria posed a significant challenge to Al-Qaeda's authority. ISIS's brutal tactics and territorial ambitions drew attention away from Al-Qaeda, leading to a decline in its influence. Osama's successor, Ayman al-Zawahiri, lacked the charisma and leadership skills of his predecessor. While he attempted to continue Osama's vision, he struggled to unify the organization had conducted a covert operation deep inside Al-Qaeda's operations became more fragmented, with regional affiliates pursuing their own agendas rather Pakistan's centralized strategy. The death of Osama also many questioned how Osama bin Laden had been able to live in a secure compound. He had been a symbol of short distance from a major military academy. His loss left a void the Pakistani government faced intense leading to a sense of disillusionment among some of his internationally. At the same time, the United States intensified its counterterrorism incompetence as the reason for its long-term special forces to target Al-Qaeda operatives around U.S.-Pakistan relations. These actions further weakened both sides accusing reducing its ability to carry out large-scale attacks. However, in the Muslim world, the threat of terrorism reactions to Osama's new groups and ideologies emerged to fill the void left by Al-Qaeda. Others viewed him as a martyr. Osama bin Laden's legacy continues to be a subject of debate and analysis, vowing revenge and reaffirming their commitment to global sacrificed his life for a cause he believed. However, for his left a vacuum in their organization, he is remembered, leading to internal power struggles, brought untold suffering and destruction. His life and death, the raid on Osama's compound yielded a treasure trove of intelligence and debates, which provided insights into Al-Qaeda's operations to study his ideology, strategies. Among the materials and the impact he had on global politics and digital files. Osama's ability to inspire continued involvement in directing followers across the world remains despite living in isolation. Topic of interest. He had maintained the question of how to prevent similar figures offering guidance in the future. The raid on Abbottabad, one of the most surprising symbol of U.S. resolve Osama's capability in the fight against terrorism. operations. It demonstrated the importance of intelligence, focusing on local conflicts, and persistence in achieving strategic objectives. He believed that large-scale attacks also highlighted the challenges were essential for sustaining the group's relevance, particularly in regions where governance is weak. The intelligence also showed that Osama story is a reminder about his personal struggle between conflicting worldviews and the devastation. Relying instead on couriers to send his actions shaped the 21st this cautious approach, leaving a legacy that conveyed detection for years, but also limited his ability to effectively in the fight against Al-Qaeda's network.
Chapter 7: Legacy of Terror and Propaganda. Section 1. Even in death, Osama bin Laden's influence persisted. His ideology of global jihad had already taken root, inspiring extremist movements and lone wolves worldwide. Al-Qaeda's operational capabilities may have diminished after his death, but the seeds of his propaganda continued to grow, leading to new waves of violence and unrest. Osama's ability to exploit media and technology played a significant role in spreading his message.
The fact that US
through videotapes, audio tapes, and written statements, he presented himself as a revolutionary figure fighting against Western oppression. These materials resonated with individuals disillusioned by perceived injustices, creating a network of sympathizers who carried out attacks in his name. One of Osama's most enduring legacies was the decentralization of terrorism. While Al-Qaeda had once operated as a cohesive organization, his influence led to the creation of numerous regional affiliates, each pursuing their own goals. Groups such as Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and Al-Shabaab in Somalia became key players in the global jihadist movement. The rise of the internet further amplified Osama's legacy. Online forums, videos, and social media platforms provided a space for extremists to recruit, radicalize, and communicate. His image and ideology became symbols of resistance for a new generation of militants, even as Al-Qaeda's power waned.
Leading to internal power struggles.
Osama bin Laden's death also reshaped the geopolitical landscape. The war on terror, launched in response to 9/11, had already transformed U.S. foreign policy, leading to prolonged conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. The killing of Osama was seen as a pivotal moment, but it did not bring an end to these wars. In Afghanistan, the U.S. continued its military presence, attempting to stabilize the country and prevent the resurgence of the Taliban. However, the prolonged conflict led to mounting casualties and financial costs, creating growing discontent among the American public. The debate over whether the war on terror had achieved its objectives intensified, with some arguing that it had created more instability than it resolved. Pakistan, too, faced significant fallout from Osama's death. The revelation that he had been living in Abbottabad, near a major military academy, raised questions about the country's role in harboring terrorists. Relations between the U.S. and Pakistan became increasingly strained, with both sides accusing each other of undermining their efforts against extremism. Meanwhile, the broader Middle East continued to experience the ripple effects of Osama's actions. The rise of ISIS in Iraq and Syria created a new chapter in the fight against terrorism, overshadowing Al-Qaeda and drawing attention away from Osama's legacy. However, the ideological battle he had ignited showed no signs of ending.
Section 3, asterisk. Osama bin Laden's personal life and motivations became subjects of intense scrutiny after his death. Analysts and biographers sought to understand the man behind the global jihadist movement, exploring his upbringing, education, and radicalization. Born into a wealthy Saudi family, Osama had access to privileges and opportunities that many of his followers could only dream of. His transformation from a reserved student to a militant leader was shaped by his experiences in Afghanistan during the Soviet-Afghan U.S. forces had witnessing the devastation and suffering inside Pakistan. Muslims in conflict zones fueled his belief in armed struggle as a means of resistance. Pakistan's Osama's charisma and convictions capabilities apart from other many questioned how Osama was able to articulate a vision that resonated with his followers, blending religious ideology major military academies. The Pakistani government and organized large-scale operations, both domestic such as the 9 international attacks, while some demonstrated his strategic acumen, others pointed to incompetence. However, the reason for Osama's life was also marked by contradictions. The fallout strained while he claimed Pakistan relations. His actions caused immense suffering each other failures and cooperation. His ideology of violence and extremism alienated many reactions to Osama's rejected his interpretation while many condemned his actions and legacy. Others viewed him as a martyr. The world continues to grapple with the legacy of Osama. Al-Qaeda issued statements. His death marked the end of an era, reaffirming their challenges he represented remain unresolved. The loss of their leader, the rise of extremism, left a vacuum in their organization and political injustices, leading to internal power continues to threaten global security. Efforts to counter terrorism have evolved. The raid on Osama's compound yielded greater emphasis on addressing the root causes, which provided insights into Al-Qaeda's organizations have worked to combat radicalization. Among the materials promote education and foster economic and digital files that revealed Osama's continued involvement are often hampered by political instability. Despite living in isolation and competing, he had maintained communication with his Osama bin Laden, offering guidance, a symbol of the dangers of unchecked extremism. One of the most surprising and the consequences of global conflicts. Osama's frustration with Al-Qaeda's actions serve as a cautionary. He criticized the leadership, highlighting the need on local conflicts, cooperation, rather than and understanding in the fight against terrorism. He believed that large-scale attacks on Osama bin Laden is a reminder of the complexities of the modern relevance, where ideology, new power intersect in ways. The intelligence also showed that Osama, while his death brought his personal security, he avoided using electronic forces. He unleashed, relying instead on couriers.
Chapter 8: The Ripple Effect. Section 1. The death of Osama bin Laden did not mark the end of terrorism. Instead, it triggered a wave of splinter groups, each adopting its own interpretation of global jihad. While Al-Qaeda was weakened, other groups such as ISIS began to rise, filling the vacuum left by Osama's death. ISIS distinguished itself through its territorial ambitions, brutal tactics, and sophisticated propaganda. Unlike Al-Qaeda, which focused on global attacks, ISIS aimed to establish a caliphate, seizing vast areas of Iraq and Syria. The group attracted thousands of foreign fighters, including disillusioned youth from the West. The rise of ISIS created new challenges for global counterterrorism efforts. Governments struggled to combat the group's online recruitment strategies, which targeted vulnerable individuals. The specter of lone wolf attacks grew, with extremists acting independently in the name of jihad. Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda remained active, though its influence waned in comparison to ISIS. Regional affiliates such as AQAP and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb AQM continued to carry out attacks, focusing on local conflicts rather than global operations. Despite its diminished power, Al-Qaeda remained a significant threat, particularly in unstable regions. Osama's death also reignited debates about the effectiveness of counterterrorism strategies. While the raid on Abbottabad was seen as a success, many questioned whether military action alone could address the root causes of extremism. The complex interplay of ideology, politics, and socioeconomic conditions required a more nuanced approach. Section 2. The impact of Osama bin Laden's death extended beyond terrorism. It influenced the broader geopolitical landscape, shaping alliances and conflicts in the years that followed. The U.S. continued its efforts to strengthen counterterrorism partnerships, working closely with allies to share intelligence and coordinate operations. However, these efforts were not without challenges. In the Middle East, shifting alliances and rivalries complicated the fight against terrorism. The Arab Spring uprisings, which began in 2011, led to widespread instability, creating fertile ground for extremist groups to thrive. In Afghanistan, the U.S. struggled to achieve a stable resolution to the conflict. Despite the death of Osama, the Taliban remained a formidable force, launching attacks and reclaiming territory. Efforts to negotiate a peace deal were met with resistance, as the Taliban sought to maintain its influence. The relationship between the U.S. and Pakistan also remained strained. The fallout from the Abbottabad raid deepened mistrust, with both sides accusing each other of failing to fully cooperate. Pakistan faced internal challenges as well, with rising extremism and political instability undermining its efforts to combat terrorism. Section 3. The legacy of Osama bin Laden is complex and multifaceted. For some, he is remembered as a mastermind who exploited global grievances to fuel a campaign of terror. For others, he remains a cautionary tale of the dangers of radicalization and the consequences of ideological extremism. Osama's actions and ideology left a profound mark on the world. He transformed terrorism from a localized phenomenon into a global movement, inspiring individuals and groups across continents. His ability to manipulate narratives and exploit media underscored the power of propaganda in shaping public opinion. At the same time, Osama's life revealed the limitations of violence as a means of achieving change. While he succeeded in capturing global attention, his tactics alienated many and ultimately led to his demise. The suffering caused by his actions far outweighed any gains he sought to achieve, leaving a legacy of destruction and loss. The story of Osama bin Laden also serves as a reminder of the importance of addressing the root causes of extremism. Socioeconomic inequality, political oppression, and lack of education are among the factors that contribute to radicalization. Efforts to combat terrorism must go beyond military action, focusing on creating opportunities and fostering understanding. Section 4. As the world continues to confront the challenges of terrorism, the story of Osama bin Laden remains a pivotal chapter in modern history. His life and actions shaped the global landscape, influencing policies, alliances, and the way nations perceive security threats. For the victims of his atrocities, Osama's death brought a sense of justice, but it could not undo the pain and loss they experienced. The attacks he orchestrated left scars that will endure for generations, serving as a stark reminder of the cost of extremism. The fight against terrorism is far from over, but lessons learned from Osama's life and death guide current strategies. Governments, organizations, and individuals continue to work toward preventing radicalization, promoting peace, and addressing the grievances that fuel extremism. Osama bin Laden's story is a testament to the complexities of human conflict. It highlights the dangers of ideology, unchecked by compassion and the resilience of those who strive for a world free from violence. His legacy is a call to action, urging humanity to confront its darkest impulses and build a future founded on understanding and cooperation. Chapter 9. Global Repercussions. Section 1. The assassination of Osama bin Laden reverberated across the globe, eliciting a spectrum of reactions from various nations and communities. In the United States, his death was celebrated as a significant victory in the ongoing war on terror. Memorial services and tributes were held to honor the lives lost in the 9/11 attacks, and policymakers hailed the operation as a testament to American resolve and military prowess. Media outlets extensively covered the event, emphasizing the closure it brought to a chapter of national trauma. Conversely, in Pakistan, the Abbottabad raid ignited widespread controversy and debate. Many Pakistanis viewed the incursion as a violation of their sovereignty, leading to public protests and condemnation of the United States. The Pakistani government faced immense pressure to explain how bin Laden had evaded detection for so long within its borders. In the Middle East, reactions were mixed. While some governments condemned bin Laden's actions and distanced themselves from his extremist ideology, others remained sympathetic to his cause or outright supportive. His death was used by various groups to either rally support against Western influence or to promote their own agendas. Internationally, allies of the United States saw the operation as a demonstration of effective counterterrorism collaboration. Countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia expressed solidarity, recognizing the shared threat posed by al-Qaeda and similar organizations. However, nations with strained relations with the U.S. Section 2. The geopolitical landscape underwent significant shifts in the aftermath of bin Laden's death. The United States intensified its focus on dismantling remaining al-Qaeda networks and preventing the rise of successor groups. Enhanced intelligence sharing and international cooperation became pivotal strategies in countering global terrorism. Agencies like the CIA and FBI increased their efforts to disrupt financial networks that funded extremist activities. In Afghanistan, the U.S. and NATO forces faced the daunting task of stabilizing the region post-Taliban. Despite the Taliban's removal from power, insurgent activities persisted, fueled by ideological fervor and local grievances. Pakistan, grappling with internal conflicts and militant groups, intensified its own counterterrorism measures. The Pakistani military launched operations against Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, and other insurgent factions, aiming to purge the country of terrorist elements. These efforts were met with mixed success, as some areas remained hotspots for extremist activity. The rise of ISIS further complicated the global counterterrorism efforts. Emerging from the chaos of the Syrian civil war and the power vacuum in Iraq, ISIS capitalized on instability to declare a caliphate and attract recruits from around the world. Section 3. Osama bin Laden's legacy continued to influence global jihadist movements long after his death. His ideology of radical Islam and armed resistance against Western powers remained a rallying point for various extremist groups. Al-Qaeda affiliates in regions like Yemen, Somalia, and the Sahel adapted their strategies, focusing on local conflicts while maintaining ideological ties to the original organization. The proliferation of digital technology and the Internet transformed the
fact that
landscape of modern terrorism.
Conducted a covert operation
Extremist groups exploited online platforms to disseminate propaganda, recruit new members, and coordinate operations. Social media, encrypted messaging apps, and dark web forums became vital tools for spreading radical ideologies and organizing attacks with unprecedented speed and anonymity. In response to the evolving threat, governments worldwide implemented comprehensive counter-radicalization programs. These initiatives aim to address the socioeconomic and psychological factors that contribute to extremist recruitment. Education programs, community outreach, and initiatives to promote social cohesion were prioritized, recognizing that sustainable solutions required more than just military intervention. The international legal framework surrounding terrorism also evolved in the post-Bin Laden era. New laws and regulations were enacted to enhance counter-terrorism measures, streamline information sharing, and prosecute terrorist activities. Human rights concerns remained a critical consideration, as governments balanced security imperatives with the protection of civil liberties. Section 4. The human cost of Osama bin Laden's actions and the subsequent global responses continued to shape societies worldwide. Families of 9/11 victims, as well as victims of other terrorist attacks, faced enduring trauma and loss. Memorials and commemorations served as reminders of the lives lost in the ongoing struggle against terrorism in regions directly impacted by conflict, such as Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. The scars of war persisted. Infrastructure rebuilding, economic recovery, and social reintegration remained long-term challenges. International aid organizations and local governments worked tirelessly to provide humanitarian assistance, restore essential services, and promote peace-building efforts. The cultural and societal impacts of the war on terror also manifested in various forms. Heightened security measures and counter-terrorism policies influenced daily life, from increased surveillance to stricter immigration controls. Societal attitudes towards Muslims and Middle Eastern communities experienced strains. Educational institutions played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative around terrorism and extremism. Curricula were updated to include discussions on global conflicts, ideological extremism, and the importance of critical thinking in countering radicalization. Subchapter 10, Reflections and the Path Forward. Section 1. As the years passed since Osama bin Laden's death, the world reflected on the profound changes that had unfolded. The global landscape had been irrevocably altered by the events of 9/11 and the ensuing war on terror. Nations grappled with the long-term implications of their responses to extremism, seeking to balance security with the preservation of civil liberties and human rights. The lessons learned from this period became foundational in shaping future counterterrorism strategies. One of the most significant reflections centered on the effectiveness of military intervention in combating terrorism. While the removal of bin Laden was a symbolic victory, the broader goals of dismantling extremist networks and fostering stable governance proved elusive. The protracted conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq highlighted the complexities of nation-building and the limitations of military solutions in addressing deep-rooted ideological and socio-political issues. The role of intelligence and surveillance in modern security paradigms also came under scrutiny. Advances in technology enabled more sophisticated monitoring and data analysis, enhancing the ability to detect and prevent terrorist activities. However, these capabilities raised concerns about privacy and the potential for abuse. International cooperation emerged as a critical component in the fight against global terrorism. The interconnected nature of extremist networks required collaborative efforts across borders, encompassing intelligence sharing, joint operations, and coordinated policy responses. For Section 2, the legacy of Osama bin Laden also prompted introspection within Muslim communities worldwide. Many Muslims sought to distance themselves from extremist ideologies, emphasizing the peaceful and spiritual aspects of their faith. Religious leaders and scholars actively worked to counteract the misinterpretations and distortions that had fueled radicalization. Education and empowerment became key. Strategies in combating the allure of extremist narratives, providing access to quality education, economic opportunities, and social services helped address the grievances that often drive individuals towards radicalization. The media's role in shaping public perception and countering extremist narratives gained increased attention. Responsible journalism and ethical reporting practices were emphasized to avoid sensationalism and prevent the glorification of terrorists. Technology and innovation continued to play pivotal roles in counterterrorism efforts. Advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics enhanced the ability to predict and disrupt terrorist activities. Cybersecurity measures were strengthened to protect against digital threats and prevent the misuse of technology by extremist groups. Section 3. Osama bin Laden's story also influenced popular culture, shaping narratives in literature, film, and art. His life and actions were depicted in numerous documentaries, biographical films, and fictionalized accounts, each offering different perspectives on his motivations and impact. These cultural representations served as a means of processing collective trauma, fostering discussions about the causes and consequences of terrorism, and exploring the complexities of human behavior and ideology. Academic Institutions Incorporated studies of terrorism and extremism into their curricula, encouraging students to critically analyze the factors that contribute to the rise of such movements. Research in political science, sociology, psychology, and international relations provided valuable insights into the dynamics of radicalization, the effectiveness of counterterrorism strategies, and the pathways to peace building. Scholars debated the ethical implications of interventions and the balance between security and liberty, contributing to a more informed and nuanced understanding of global security challenges. The story of Osama bin Laden also inspired grassroots movements, advocating for peace, tolerance, and human rights.
Others viewed him as a martyr who had stood up
Organizations worked to promote dialogue between different cultural and religious groups, fostering environments where extremist ideologies could be challenged and marginalized. Personal narratives and memoirs from individuals affected by terrorism provided intimate accounts of loss, resilience, and hope. These stories highlighted the human cost of extremism and the strength of communities in the face of adversity. Section 4. Looking forward, the global community remained vigilant in its efforts to counter terrorism and prevent the resurgence of extremist ideologies. The lessons learned from the life and death of Osama bin Laden informed future strategies, emphasizing the importance of adaptability, resilience, and cooperation. The pursuit of peace and understanding remained paramount, with ongoing initiatives aimed at addressing the root causes of conflict and fostering inclusive societies. Diplomatic efforts to resolve regional disputes, promote economic development, and support education were integral to creating environments where extremism could not thrive. Osama bin Laden's legacy, while marked by violence and destruction, also served as a catalyst for positive change. The global fight against terrorism spurred advancements in intelligence, technology, and international law, enhancing the ability to respond to emerging threats. In conclusion, the story of Osama bin Laden encapsulates a pivotal chapter in modern history, illustrating the profound impact one individual can have on global events. His life, actions, and legacy continue to influence the world, shaping policies, ideologies, and the collective consciousness.